Imagine being ripped from your home, not because you did anything wrong, not because you were a soldier or a criminal or an enemy, because you were simply there. One morning, you were a young girl in a small village. You have a name your mother gave you. You have dreams. You have a future. By nightfall, you are a commodity, a piece of property with a price tag. Chained to strangers. March toward a world you did not know existed. Most people in that position disappear. They become a number, a footnote, a ghost in someone else's history. But this girl, she looked at the most powerful man in the world and said, "I am not your property. I am your equal." And he believed her. This is the story of how a slave became the queen of an empire. Welcome to Awakening Avenue. Her name was Anastasia. Or maybe it was Alexandra. History is not sure. What we do know is this: she was born around 1505 in a land called Ruthenia, a region of green forests and cold rivers in what we now call Ukraine. She was not born into royalty. She was not born into wealth. She was born into a simple family, in a simple house where the greatest luxury was a warm fire and a full stomach. And then the Tatars came. The Crimean Tatars were a fierce people from the south. They rode fast horses, they carried curved swords, and they came for one thing: captives. In the 16th century, slavery was not just a tragedy, it was an industry. Tatar raiders would sweep through villages like a storm, burning houses, separating families, and dragging thousands of people away in chains. These captives were marched for hundreds of miles to the slave markets of Kaffa, on the coast of the Black Sea. Anastasia was one of them. Imagine the terror, the smoke, the screaming, your mother's hand slipping from yours and never finding it again. At the slave market, she stood on a wooden platform while men inspected her like cattle. They checked her teeth. They looked into her eyes. They negotiated her price as if she were a horse or a piece of furniture. And then a man from Constantinople bought her. He worked for the Ottoman Sultan. He was looking for young, intelligent girls to send to the imperial harem, the private residence of the Sultan, where his female family members and concubines lived. Anastasia was loaded onto a ship. She crossed the Black Sea, and when she arrived in Constantinople, a city of golden domes, busy markets, and the smell of spices she had never imagined, her old life was officially over. She was given a new name: Roxolana, the girl from Ruthenia. Now, let me teach you a very important word: harem. A harem was not what Hollywood movies tell you. It was not a room full of women waiting to please a king. In the Ottoman Empire, the harem was a complex, highly organized community inside the palace. It had rules, it had ranks, it had politics, and for a young slave girl, it was both a prison and an opportunity. Roxolana entered the old palace, where all new girls were trained. She was taught to read, she was taught to write, she was taught to write, she was taught poetry, music, and the art of conversation. She was taught Ottoman Turkish, Arabic, and Persian. Think about that. The empire invested in her education. Why? Because the Sultan did not want beautiful dolls. He wanted intelligent companions, women who could discuss politics, who could manage households, who could raise princes. Roxolana was not the most beautiful girl in the harem. History tells us that. But she had something far more dangerous than beauty. She had a mind. While other girls worried about their clothes and their jewelry, Roxolana studied. She read poetry. She learned about the empire's politics. She listened to the gossip of the older women and remembered every name, every alliance, every secret. She was preparing. She was waiting. She was waiting. She was watching. And then, one day, the Sultan asked to meet her. His name was Suleiman. Suleiman the Magnificent, the 10th Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, the man who ruled from Budapest to Baghdad, the man whose armies made European kings tremble in their castles. He was 26 years old. He was brilliant. He was ambitious. And he was lonely. Suleiman had already fathered a son with another concubine, a woman named Mahidevran. Mahidevran was beautiful. She was the mother of the heir. She was powerful. But when Suleiman met Roxolana, something shifted. Here was a woman who did not simply agree with him. She challenged him. She made him laugh. She recited poetry that moved him. She asked questions about his dreams, his fears, his vision for the empire. Suleiman fell in love. Not the kind of love you see in cheap movies, the kind of love that changes the course of history. He began to visit her more than any other woman. He wrote her letters, passionate, poetic letters that historians still read today. In one letter, he called her my light, my moon, my springtime. But here is where Roxolana proved she was different from every woman before her. She did not just accept his love. She used it as a lever. In the Ottoman Empire, there was a tradition as old as the empire itself. Sultans did not marry their concubines. They had children with them, yes. They loved them, yes. But they never, ever gave them the title of wife. Because a wife had legal rights. A wife had power. A wife could influence the Sultan in ways that a concubine could not. For 200 years, no sultan had married a slave. Roxolana decided she would be the first. She did not demand. She did not threaten. She was smarter than that. She made Suleiman believe that marrying her was his idea, that it was the natural, obvious, only choice. And in 1533, Suleiman broke 200 years of tradition. He freed Roxolana from slavery. And then, in a grand ceremony witnessed by the entire court, he made her his legal wife. She was given a new name, Hurrem Sultan. Hurrem means the cheerful one in Persian, from slave to sultan's wife. But Hurrem was not finished. Now that she was the sultan's wife, Hurrem did what no woman in Ottoman history had done before. She stepped out of the harem and into politics. She wrote letters to foreign kings. She managed charities, building mosques, schools, hospitals, and public baths across the empire. She was the Sultan's most trusted advisor. When Suleiman went to war, he wrote to her not just about love, but about strategy. She gave him 5 children, 4 sons and 1 daughter. In a world where only sons mattered for the throne, this made her the most powerful mother in the empire. But power attracts enemies. Mahidevran, the mother of the firstborn Prince Mustafa, saw Hurrem as a threat. The Grand Vizier, Ibrahim Pasha, a man who had been Suleiman's best friend since childhood, also opposed her. The old guard of the Ottoman court, the generals, the religious leaders, the bureaucrats, they all whispered that a slave girl should not have so much influence. Hurrem heard the whispers, and she acted. One by one, her enemies fell. Ibrahim Pasha, once the second most powerful man in the empire, was executed on Suleiman's orders. Historians still debate how much Hurrem influenced that decision. But the timing is suspicious. Mahidevran and her son Mustafa were sent away from the capital. Mustafa, the beloved firstborn prince, the man everyone expected to become the next sultan, was later executed on charges of treason. Did Hurrem engineer his death to clear the path for her own son? We will never know for sure, but we know this: after Mustafa died, Hurrem's son Selim became the heir. She had won. Hurrem Sultan died in 1558 at the age of about 53. Suleiman was heartbroken. He never married again. He buried her in a magnificent tomb that still stands in Istanbul today. But her true legacy was not in marble and gold. Her legacy was in the proof she left behind, that a person's beginning does not determine their ending. She started as a slave, a girl with no last name, no country, no rights. She ended as the most powerful woman in the Ottoman Empire, the wife of the greatest sultan, the mother of the next sultan, and a builder whose charities still served the poor centuries after her death. She was not perfect. She was ruthless. She destroyed her enemies without mercy. She may have been responsible for the death of an innocent prince, but she lived in a world that gave her nothing, and she took everything. Now, before we finish, let's awaken your English. Here are 5 powerful words from this story. I use them naturally, but now let's look at them closely. Word 1, commodity. A commodity is something that can be bought and sold. Originally, it referred to raw materials like oil, gold, or wheat. But when we call a person a commodity, we mean they were treated like an object, not a human being. Example, in the slave markets, human beings were treated as commodities. Word 2, harem. Harem was the private living space for women in some Muslim households, especially in royal palaces. It comes from an Arabic word meaning forbidden or sacred. In the Ottoman Empire, it was a complex society with its own rules, ranks, and power structures. Example, the Ottoman harem was not just a place of beauty. It was a center of political power. Word 3, lever. A lever is a bar used to lift heavy objects. But metaphorically, a lever is anything that gives you power or influence over a situation. Example, Hurrem used Suleiman's love as a lever to gain political power. Word 4, ruthless. If someone is ruthless, they will do anything to achieve their goals without caring about hurting others. It comes from the Old English word ruth, which meant pity or compassion. Ruthless means without pity. Example, Hurrem was brilliant, but she was also ruthless with her enemies. Word 5, legacy. Your legacy is what you leave behind after you die. It is your impact on the world. It can be buildings, ideas, children, or simply the memory of how you lived. Example, Hurrem Sultan's legacy includes hospitals, schools, and mosques that still stand today. Now, I want you to practice. Write one sentence in the comments using one of these 5 words. Don't just read them, use them. That is how language becomes yours. Hurrem Sultan's story is 500 years old, but it is also your story. Maybe you were not sold into slavery, maybe you were not dragged across an ocean in chains, but you have felt powerless. You have felt like the world gave you a role you did not choose. You have felt like a small person in a big system that does not care about your name. Hurrem looked at that system and said, I will learn your language. I will learn your rules. And then I will use them to build a door where there was only a wall. That is what you are doing right now. Every English word you learn is a brick. Every story you listen to is a tool. Every sentence you write in the comments is a step toward a version of yourself that does not yet exist, but is coming. You are not a commodity. You are not a number. You are a mind, a voice, a future. And no empire, no system, no obstacle can stop a person who decides to become powerful. Hurrem Sultan began as Anastasia, a girl from a village that no longer remembers her name. She ended as Hurrem, a name carved into the history of one of the greatest empires the world has ever seen. The distance between those 2 names was not magic, it was not luck, it was relentless learning, strategic thinking, and the courage to demand what the world said she could not have. If this story awakened something in you, hit that like button. Let it travel. And if you want more stories that turn history into power and English into freedom, subscribe to Awakening Avenue. This is where we don't just learn a language, we build a stronger self. Drop a comment below. Which forgotten queen, warrior, or rebel should we awaken next? I read every single one. Until next time, keep learning, keep rising, and never let anyone convince you that your beginning is your ending. This is Awakening Avenue. See you in the next story.